Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer AJ the Jet. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the Northwest, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. This is Season 2, Episode 34. On Saturday the 7th of March, it was announced that an amalgamation would take place between Claybrow Football Club, JN Sports and TQ Sports. The outcome of this amalgamation was the formation of Skelmersdale Town Football Club. Their mission statement outlined a clear pathway from junior football up to the senior team and a return of competitive football to the JMO Sports Park in Skelmersdale under the Skelmersdale name, with a commitment to playing in the Northwest counties within 3 years. The following day, the social media operators of Skelmersdale Town revealed that the current individuals of the new club, Jay Howarth, Joe Nicholson and Gareth Rafferty, had put together an offer to take over the running of Skelmersdale United, an offer which was rejected and subsequently led to the formation of Skelmersdale Town. Frank Hughes, as chairman of Skelmersdale United, will be answering questions surrounding the football club for Skelmersdale Town and all that has unfolded in the last weeks and months. Thank you, Frank.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, first off, could you please describe the nature of the takeover attempt that was made on Skelmersdale United Football Club?
Right. I've had a few conversations over the last 3 years. I spoke to Joe Nicholson back when I originally rejoined Skem as chairman. I've spoken to Jay Howarth as the head of Claybrow, if you like. I've spoke to all kinds of people, had approaches, but then a lot of these conversations haven't really led to anything. And then more recently, I had a meeting with Gareth Rafferty and Joe Nicholson, where they were very interested in joining the board of directors. But at that particular moment in time, there was no takeover. It was about joining forces rather than anything else. And they've established that there's a pathway and how they would, how that would work. And it sounded quite interesting on paper. And it's certainly in spoken form at that particular time. But it changed a little bit because then came on board Claybrow. When Claybrow found out that Joe and Gareth were thinking of amalgamating with Skem, they brought Jay Howarth into the equation. I sat in a meeting with Jay Howarth, Joe Nicholson and Gareth, and I was told straight away that we basically want to take over the running of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and we want all the current directors to resign. So I have to take you back a little bit. Listen, first of all, before I go any further, I wish Claybrow, since they've rebranded into Skelmersdale Town, all the very, very best in the future. They've got a tough road ahead of them, but they appear to be ambitious in many ways, and they appear to be set up well enough to be successful. So this is business. Now, when I met Jay Howarth back in 2023, I proposed that Skelmersdale United Football Club, who are currently were in the North West Counties Premier Division, I suggested that we amalgamated the two clubs. Jay was perfectly honest with me, and he said it's not really something he would like to pursue because his legacy, something that he started, Claybrow, when he started it all those years ago, he wanted to see the transformation. He wanted to build the club to rival, basically, without saying the words, to rival Skem United Football Club and join the non-league system. That said, I was called to a meeting with one of his business partners and basically told face-to-face that why would we want to amalgamate with Skem United Football Club? It's shit. And we are far better. We're 35 clubs strong. And I said to him at the time, well, we're in the North West Counties Premier Division and you're just entering the Cheshire League, which is 4 or 5 divisions below us. I said, so it would make good sense to join forces and make something that's already established in the non-league bigger and better. It didn't come to fruition. So my question then to them or to anybody that asks questions, and they should be posing the same question themselves, is why is Skelmersdale United Football Club now only a division higher than Claybrow? Why is it more of a better proposition than it was when it was playing its trade 4 divisions higher? So that's where it came about. And of course, there's counter offers. You have discussions and say, well, I don't think that would work, but it might work this way. Everything else wasn't really on the table as far as they were concerned. They wanted to pursue what they wanted to pursue. And bearing in mind that Skelmersdale Town was going to be created, Jay's words at this meeting, the initial meeting was, it doesn't really matter what you say today, what your decision is, we're going to run with Skelmersdale Town anyway. So you'd have to ask you the question, was it a publicity stunt in terms of, well, if we start Skelmersdale Town and we don't attempt to be involved with Skem United Football Club, would it go down well with the Skem public? So that would be my question. And there was no guarantees. There was a lot of talk and there was a lot of detail put on paper, but it didn't feel right. When something doesn't feel right, as you know, my position as chairman, it wasn't a route I wanted to go down.
Were you open to negotiations, or were they open to negotiations? You said you didn't feel like it was. Did you actively pursue any negotiations or changes to the takeover bid with them?
I talked through 1 or 2 propositions. It was quite clear that they weren't really interested. To be perfectly honest with you, when I'm sat in that meeting, I knew it's sort of taken on a hostile sort of takeover bid, and I think before I actually met with the 3 of them, I was more likely to amalgamate with Joe and Gareth than I would have been with the 3. And I think they were more likely to amalgamate with us without Joe. It took on a different road pathway.
Without Jay or Joe?
With Jay,
Right.
it took a different direction. So to be perfectly honest with you, I sat there. I knew it wasn't going to work. I knew the proposition. I expected the proposition that was coming. I expected it, and I knew I wouldn't like it. And I didn't think it was in the best interest of Skelmersdale United Football Club.
Having seen the email which has then made the rounds on social media, an email which was sent to you in your capacity as chairman, it would indicate that Skelmersdale United's new look, had the takeover been successful, to be quite positive. You know, they've made very heavy intentions of making a ladder from junior football to senior football, backing it financially well. well. They have a ground ready in the JMO Sports Park, which some would say represents a bit of a holy trinity as far as non-league football is concerned. So why did you think that wasn't in the best interest of Skelmersdale United?
Several reasons. One, returning to the JMO in the interim. There's no guarantee that the carpet is going to be relayed. There has been conversations between those three parties and JMO, and it looks as though that John Morrison might be replacing the carpet at some stage. But as you know, in terms of time specific, we've got until the 31st of March to agree a ground share deal with someone, if there is a backdoor entry into the Northwest Counties, and should we be capable of taking it, we wouldn't be able to do it at the JMO as it stands right now. So there's many reasons, many facets, but I suppose probably one of the main ones is that I question why a group of people would take this opportunity to save Skem, as they put it, save Skelmersdale's interests now, yet they didn't do it when we most needed them before.
Why did Skelmersdale United need them before? What was different then and now?
Well, before I came along, it was when Gordon was left with, I think there was about 6 resignations at the end of the 22-23 season. He was left very much on his own. He approached me. There wasn't very much money in the bank account. And Skem were in dire straits. So listen, a lot of my initial conversations were with the likes of John Mallinson at JMO. I was passed over to his sidekick, Steve Tomlinson, or his PA, whatever he's called. My primary aim back then was to repair the damage that had been done by the previous custodians with the JMO. There'd been a big fallout. Things were said. It's well documented. Listen, it's well documented. And got to be said first and foremost is that Skelmersdale United Football Club weren't relegated from the Northern Premier League. They were demoted because they failed the FIFA bounce test
at the JMO.
So when they went to Bearscough didn't fit the requirements for the Northern Premier League. The ground itself didn't. JMO was, because we'd already played in the Northern Premier League at that ground. So it wasn't ready. So getting back to the point that I was making, conversations have been had between myself and Steve Tomlinson. Like I said, the primary aim was to repair the damage that had been done from the previous custodians. The conversations have continued on and off, and as recently the 2nd of January this year, despite positive talks and those largely meaning to settle stormy waters, very little else has been achieved so far. So the ball has always been in their court.
Okay. So the JMO obviously not fit for purpose, and Skelmersdale United aren't really sort of in a position to be able to go back to that ground at this point, which kind of then leads us on to the other aspects of this takeover bid that made you feel like you couldn't go ahead with it, because it couldn't have just been the JMO that was the issue, and the issue of a home ground.
Well, I mean, I don't know any I don't know any clubs, or I've certainly not heard of any football clubs that have let their rivals take them over. And they very much are rivals now. Since we've dropped to step 7, they've become our rivals. But the other thing that you've got to consider is that a lot of hard work has gone on behind the scenes. We've got business partners, sponsors, collaborators and supporters that we've got to answer to. And a lot of hard work by all board directors has taken place in that period of time. If I'd have given up Skelmersdale United Football Club to this, what do you call it? Consortium. If I'd have given up control, all that hard work that I've done personally myself, I don't think I could have handed that baton on to anybody. I don't think anybody would have they've got their own way of dealing with their business. My way of dealing with business is the primary aim is to get back to SCEM. I don't think even if the GMO was a possibility, I still think it's a short-term possibility. Or, a short-term fix. We need to have control of income, bar takings, catering. We need to find a way of making money if we're going to be progressive. If we're going to get back to where we were, we can't be. We can't be on a ground where, one, we haven't got security of tenure, which is the important thing, by the way. Without security of tenure, we can't physically access any funding streams in order to improve the facilities. So if we move back to the JMO and we manage to get promoted to, say, eventually back to the Northern Premier League West, and we need to make ground improvements, we would have to rely on JMO to facilitate that, because that they don't want to enter into a secure tenancy agreement, which is required by the Football Foundation, for example. So all of those things are hurdles in our way. But like I said, the primary thing is that we've entered into a set of negotiations where we've got a plan for the future, plan of returning to the town, and we're working with collaborators to do so. And we want to be a community hub. We want to be at the centre of the community, and we want to be part of the regeneration in SCEM, and that is not possible going back to the GMO on a permanent basis.
It may not be possible going back to the JMO on a permanent basis, but given the club's performances on the pitch of late, obviously we are aware that there was demotion from the Northern Premier League West, but then what has happened is two back-to-back fair relegations to the point where we are now. Would it not have been considered by yourself, or reasonable by yourself, that maybe the club isn't ready for promotion just yet, at a time where it's financially, sustainable but not powerful at this point?
I think the difficulty is that when you're relegated, you lose a degree of your fan base. You also lose a team. It's happened on two occasions now. We had a really good quality squad of players that Pascal Chimbonda worked with. We lost them through the relegation, and obviously through sacking Pascal as well, doesn't help. But then, you bring a new manager in. Your budget's still not great, so you've got to... in many ways, you've got to create a backbone. And then you've got to use an awful lot of youth and inexperience. Without money, it's very difficult to sustain football at any level. We're probably at our most natural level now. It suits us more, and in terms of ambition to go back up, if there was a back route back into the Northwest Counties at the end of this season, we would probably take it. And the reason we probably take it is because there's likely ahead of the 27-28 season, Step 6 is probably going to be increased from 17 leagues to 24, which would mean that there would be a central league in the Northwest Counties. The bigger that the Northwest Counties grows, the less likely there is going to be any pressure on a team to be relegated, because a lot of the teams at Step 7 are... they play on community grounds, which throws up issues with fixtures and what have you. So in terms of that, going back this season, you would think that if that's going to go ahead next season, and they're going to increase the size of it, there's not going to be any relegation. Plus, the other thing that I think a lot of leagues are trying to make the FA aware of is that if you promote a team and you give them the 9 months grace to get their ground up to grading, so up until the 31st of March, if they invest all their money into that and they finish bottom and they get relegated, then there's a lot of teams not wanting to go up. You wouldn't want to go up. You want certain guarantees. I think we've got certain guarantees in the Liverpool County Premier League that we've never had in the North West counties, but that would change. But the answer to the question is, we're probably at our most natural level now. If we were going back into the North West counties and there's no changes in it, we go back in there without a budget. But I maintain what I said. We got demoted from the Northern Premier League. We've been relegated twice because of lack of finances, because we're playing away from home. There is never, up until the end of last season, we couldn't have played at the GMO. We literally couldn't in the North West counties. It didn't pass the grade. This season, we could have done, had we not been looking for a reprieve. The reprieve didn't come, but the reprieve came after we had to sign a ground share agreement. So it's a double-edged sword. No money, you get relegated. You lose players at the end of the season. You've got to rebuild again. You're constantly rebuilding. But yeah, the answer to your question is no. Under normal circumstances, the North West Counties is a bit of a tough prospect for us moving back up. There's no doubt about it.
Well, we've emphasised that no money is kind of a major component into the club's difficulties in the last few years. But the proposal that was sent to you by the consortium, thank you, is that they did have money there. So surely that could have been addressed by them.
Yeah, listen, first of all, I question where that money's coming from, because nobody told me during that meeting. They weren't as specific as obviously they've gone into detail there, but they've not mentioned specific sums. So as 3 entities, they run their coaching schools. So up to the under 11s, they will still be focusing on their in many ways, they've used the West Lancashire, so they're custodians of the West Lancashire Junior Football League, which has over 300 clubs. And they've leveraged that with the JMO in order to, what seemingly, their words, to gain control of the JMO Park on Saturdays and Sundays. And it's a huge carrot dangler for John Mallinson and JMO, because the facilities need upgrading. And John Mallinson is not going to throw away money, good money, when there's no guarantee that he's going to get that back. So he's probably got 15, 16, 17 years maybe left on his lease with the council. If you put £400,000 into a business that's only got that length of lease available, then it's going to cost you money. You're not going to make your money back. But using leverage of 300 teams playing, on a Saturday and Sunday at the GMO, then Mallinson's probably thinking, I'll invest the £400,000 or whatever it is, because I'll get that back in for 4 years from Clay Brow. It's not Clay Brow, from West Lancashire Junior Football League. So in terms of the consortium, the 3 people still got their own separate businesses. From the way I read it was that the under 12s, from the under 12s right up to the first team, those teams below could generate an income of around about circa £100,000, which would go towards the first team. Mm-hmm. I have a problem with that myself personally, from a community football perspective. They're a business, and I don't blame them. They're a business and they're making money. Skelmersdale United Football Club has always been a non-profit organisation, and I know in terms of branding this will look as though it's a non-profit organisation, but I didn't see that. They didn't show me that, and that was my worry. And when you've got 3 people, and I'm not saying, people have questioned whether I've got an ego or not. I look at those 3 people and say to myself, you've been in competition with each other before. How long down the line before you 3 fall out? And listen, I said the same thing to them when I met with them. How long before you fall out, and then what happens? Because you've got to sort it out between the 3 of you then. So I didn't feel comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable with the way they were talking about financing it, and there was no proof there. There was no logic to the argument. There was no statement there. There was no. They've not shown me figures. They've not shown me proof that they can produce that kind of money. And at the end of the day, like I say, I want to protect the legacy of Skelmersdale United Football Club, which is now 145 years in its 145th year, still going strong. And this thing about saving Skelmersdale United Football Club, it's not going out of business. So they're not saving Skelmersdale United Football Club. They might have been attempting to bring Skelmersdale United Football, but don't forget, Claybrow are a division below us. So in terms of them taking over us, they get a step up the ladder. Now, you know, in terms of good old competition, I've never known any. I've never known any lesser team to take over a bigger team. So I don't know whether that answers your question.
I think it certainly makes a point that money doesn't really talk when there's no evidence to back it up about where it came from, and particularly as this consortium is made up of 3 businesses. You should imagine that there's payments coming in and going out as a priority before Skelmersdale Town or Skelmersdale United becomes a priority. You know, there's wages to be paid. I assume that crossed your mind, did it?
In terms of what their payments would be to each other?
In terms of where the money would be going that was being sourced from, you know, kids' football and their own businesses. I
think the primary aim is to get a town back in the Northwest Counties, as they've, you know, a town team back in the Northwest Counties, as they've mentioned. In order to do that, it's going to take an awful lot of money. I don't think they know how much money it would cost to be competitive in the Northwest Counties Division 1 North. Never mind, the higher league, the Premier Division. I don't think they've got a clue. They've never run a football club at that level. So why would they? And then you'd also question the fact that why would you want to take over a business but not keep 1 or 2 personnel that have got the experience of running a non-league football club? You'd question that as well.
Suppose so. Although we'll sort of come back to that one in a little while. So there was no knowledge of where the money was coming from that was going to finance the capabilities to run Skelmersdale United Football Club. There was no capacity to return to the JMO at this point because the pitch wasn't fit for purpose.
Well, it is at our level. We could go back there, but yes. As far as I'm aware, right now, the South Pitch is still not past any form of FA testing, licensing. The same with the North Pitch, or it comes to around about the end of May. The likelihood is they're going to lose the FA licence on that. So both North and South Pitches need, bare minimum, the North Pitch needs remedial work. The South Pitch, as far as I know, needs totally replacing. So, from our perspective, I have not seen anything. I've not seen a spade in the ground. Okay, I pass JMO on a regular basis because I live close enough to look upon it, but I don't see any action going on. I don't see anything happening at the moment. I don't see a new. I don't see a new surface going down.
No.
So I don't know what's happening there. Like I say, I've negotiated. I've spoken to JMO, and I've asked about whether or not we could come back as an entity, as ourselves, short term. Should they put the new pitch down? But like I say again, it's a huge gamble, isn't it? Because all your testing has to be done before the end of March. Now you can't just get a FIFA bounce test like that. Something like that. You can't just get one. There's time slots. So all of those things, time scales work against you. So it's not easy. It wasn't an easy. Listen, but let's get back to basics first of all, right? So after they've had this meeting, I came to. I got an email sent to me on the Tuesday the 13th of January. That is the email, the private email, by the way, that should never have gone out, should never have been publicised. There was absolutely no need to do it. What they said was there's a lot of questions being asked at the moment, so we've decided to put this on. That was a private email between 4 individuals, should never have been aired. Not that I've got anything to hide, but you have to ask the question, why have they done it now? Why have they put that email out? Just carry on doing what you're doing. You don't need to. You don't need to make a meal out of it.
Well, some would say that
It's causing trouble.
Well, some would say that it's causing trouble. I think another one would say it's you being sort of belligerent on part of an entity, a Skelmersdale United Football Club that is not in its town, where they're providing the solution to bringing it back to the town. What would your thought process be to the sort of the people who think that you're doing this for your own purpose, in that Skelmersdale United has a route back, but it's not being provided?
Well, first of all, they had the meeting. The original meeting was in December sometime. What time period was it? I can't remember. But when the actual proposal came to me, the final proposal, it was on the 13th, I was told that I had to decide. I had to make a decision before the end of business on the Friday. 3 days. I mean, that in itself was what my board of directors, just as well as myself, believed that the proposal and the ultimatum was quite hostile, with absolutely no room for negotiation. They said that was it. They made it clear that's what they wanted. They wanted to take full control of Scam. In terms of being belligerent, crikey, I think in any walk of life, you want to protect something that you love, first and foremost. And there's no doubting, I think anybody that knows me well enough knows how deeply I love Skelmersdale United Football Club, how much you want to protect its legacy, how much time, effort and money I put into it, to walk away from it. If that's belligerence, then yeah, I'm belligerent.
But what my question was, why? Because they've clearly said in their proposal that it would offer a route back to the JMO. Now, regardless of FIFA grading and capacity for certification and what have you, they still provided a route back to Skelmersdale. Would that not be better than the not being there?
It would be, but for the fact that we've got other plans.
Okay. Which leads me on to my other question, is that under your chairmanship and your stewardship, we've talked an awful lot about discussing things with the right people and being in with the movers and shakers in order to try and get back to Scam. What a particular point of discussion that keeps coming back is that there's no real substance for that. There's no real evidence to suggest that we've been talking to the right people. I understand that you as a chairperson have a certain degree of privacy within that, but there's very little communication into the outside world and to the fans as to what's actually happening. Can you give any enlightenment on that now?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there's a certain amount of confidentiality that applies to any form of negotiations. We are looking at pieces of land in Skelmersdale. We are looking at the feasibility into moving onto those pieces of land. But an awful lot of people and partners have to come together in order to do that. And the one thing that you don't want to do is, you poker faced. You don't want to show your hand before you can throw it on and say, that's my money. I've won that. I've won that deal. You can't. I don't want to. It's not so much you don't want to overestimate what could happen. I believe what the route that we're going down is the best possible route, and it will get us back to Scam. But people just got to trust me. They've got to trust the football club, and if they don't trust it, that's up to them, and that's we can't do a great deal about. I think the people that are closer and know me better would and listen, and I do probably tell them a little bit more than I would tell normal people, certainly ordinary people, ordinary folk. And we certainly, there's things that we won't mention on the show, and there's certainly things that I won't put in writing. And that's the reason why we've done the podcast. I could have quite easily responded to all of this, but I'd have been forever and a day going backwards and forwards. So I decided it was better to do it in spoken form than the other way around. But in terms of, I know people are saying, oh, well, they keep saying, but we're talking to the right people, the movers and shakers, the words that I use. I know, I've seen it all, and I don't even know who these people are. I don't even know whether they've ever watched a game. They've ever watched Skelmersdale United Football Club.
You're referring to the trolls and the naysayers, as you would call it, the people who are questioning exactly where this progress is coming from.
Yeah, the people that, you know, obviously when this news broke out on Saturday night, those people that indulged in what I would say was voyeurism, assuming that Skelmersdale United Football Club is in huge threat of going out of business. Listen, let's make no bones about it. For the consortium to take control of the Skelmersdale badge, that's what they want, is the Skelmersdale badge. It has gravitas, still has gravitas now. It's 145 years old. It's won the amateur FA Cup. It's won the amateur European Cup. Yes, has it done a lot in between then? In various stages, it's had success and it's had failure. Tell me a football club, Liverpool, Manchester United, City, Arsenal, do they sustain success? Yes, a lot of them have for a period of time, but then somebody else takes over from them, and it's very much like that. Non-league football is the hardest of them all to sustain. And I'll give an example of it now. There's many football clubs that have been promoted through the pyramid that have less supporters than some of the bigger clubs. Lower Breck managed to get up to where they did, competitive against Bury with a 3,500-4,000 fan base compared to theirs 100 and plus, and still managed to get up there. I don't know how they financed it. I don't know how they work that, but you either have luck or you have money. And luck is very few and far between. There's very, very few lucky teams. The lucky teams are the ones that are being backed by people that have got bottomless pockets, and they're the ones that end up. I mean, we see it often where they outperform some of the bigger clubs because their directors or chairman have got bigger pockets.
That may be, but obviously we've established that Skelmersdale United doesn't have endless pockets. So in terms of that, how exactly are we making this move back to Skelmersdale United? Can you give any enlightenment on who it is that you're talking to, even as an industry or a business? Can you give any sort of enlightenment? Who are we talking to?
We're talking to a few people. We're talking to the politicians, talking to the people that run local government.
So that would be West Lancashire Borough Council. Presumably Lancashire County Council are involved there as well.
We've spoken to members of the Reform Party as well as the Labour Party, the West Lancashire District Council, Borough Council. I think, listen, when the release was made, when we announced our front of shared sponsorship with Todd Valley Developments, it's obvious that they're a development company. They're run by the West Lancashire Borough Council, and obviously talks. We've had talks, but beyond that, I can't be more specific. I've had a really successful week this week when I could have crumbled, with the apathy and the general sort of look that an awful lot of people that don't know anything about Skelmersdale United Football Club, the ones that have jumped on the bandwagon, have gone about their business. It's not been very easy, but there has to be a certain amount of confidentiality. There has to be, otherwise things don't happen.
Doors closed, presumably.
Doors close, people jump on it. So if people don't like that, I can't really help that. And yet, listen, I'll be judged on the next 4 or 5 years where we are then. There's no doubt about that. But I'd say, one of the most important things was just keeping the legacy going. And when I came back 3 years ago, this club was in danger of going out of business. I'm quite proud of the fact that we haven't. I don't feel as though we'll be in that position for the next couple of years. I think we've got enough about us right now to keep us ticking. I think we've got backers, we've got people helping us, people fighting in our corner. By sort of end of April, we'll be able to announce a new relationship with a big player in Skemmins, and I'm talking about in terms of business, a good working relationship with a big organisation, which will help form the foundations for moving back into the non-league system and being progressive there. It really, when it is announced, people will be assured it's really, really good news. So we're going. I hate saying we're going in the right direction, but it's the only direction we can go because we're so far down in the pecking order that the only way is up. We can't go any further down right at this moment in time. That's a guarantee. We can't go any further. We could go out of business. I walk away from the club tomorrow, then I'm pretty sure that the remaining directors, unless somebody comes on board and takes over the chairmanship and has the same kind of mentality as me, then probably they go and hand it over to Clay Brow. I don't know what they would do. That would be the easy thing to do, but I'm not in that position. I'm collaborating with people that want to get us back to Skem, and I want to be part of this big regeneration in Skem. But once I've said it once, I'll say it. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it once more. I want Skem to be a community asset, and it's never really truly been that. Arguably, people have said about it before. I mean, the biggest divide between the Skem people and the Newtown people of Skem is that they've always continually said that Skelmersdale United Football Club has never done anything for grassroots football. They talk about pathways and say there's no pathway to get into the Skelmersdale United Football Club. There is a pathway. It's called Clay Brown. People haven't thought about this before, but if people come to the end of their junior and youth career in Clay Brow, there's nothing stopping them from trying out for Skelmersdale United Football Club. They can.
How?
They just turn up, ring, leave a message. You've been involved in the what would you call it, the recruitment of football players. You've been relatively successful recently, bringing Jake to the football club. So you know that there's gems out there. But listen, we're not going to take people from a junior setup. Even if we had our own pathway, there's no guarantee when you get to a certain age that you'll qualify to be in Skem's first team. You have to be good enough at that particular moment in time. You've got to be good enough at that time. But there is a pathway for any kid in Skem that wants to play for Skem United Football Club. If they choose to play for Skelmersdale Town, as it's going to be called now, well, that's up to them. I can't stop it. It's going to be healthy competition. I can't wait for the derby.
And I'm sure that derby will come around sooner rather than later. So ultimately, then you decided that the offer to take over the Skelmersdale United Football Club wasn't in keeping with what you felt was best for the club's legacy.
Yeah.
We've established that. In terms of the board of directors that you discussed this with, was it a unanimous decision, or were there any doubts? Did anyone feel it was a good idea? I
think, listen, when I spoke to the directors, we had a meeting here. I was honest with them, and I said, on listening to it sounds great. It really, really, truly sounds like a great option. And I put that to them. I said, listen, we could all walk away from this and become supporters of a club that might grow arms and legs with, in conjunction with Clay Brown and the other two owners. But I refer back to, listen, it was a unanimous decision. They decided unanimously that they didn't want to pursue that deal. And I know a lot of people have questioned whether they wanted to know what the count was. There was no one person that turned around and said, I want to join forces with Clay Brown. No, not one person said it, because nobody wanted that to happen. So no, it was a unanimous decision. And nobody was coerced into making that decision at all. They did it because, once again, as I said, we have a path, we have a structure, we have a direction that we're going in. Like I say, we're collaborating with people that can help us get back to SCEM. And we'll continue to do that. And I think we're seeing a bigger picture here from our perspective. But why question why we won't amalgamate with them? Why wouldn't they join SCEM when I asked them 3 years ago?
It's a fair question, and it's an open-ended one, and I'm sure one that they would love to answer. I want to take it back a few years to Skelmersdale AFC, which was your short-lived brainchild at creating a club within Skelmersdale, another one. Okay, so you're not involved with Skelmersdale United Football Club at this time, are you?
No.
Okay, so what year is this? This is 2000 and...
I think 2017 initially, when I made an approach, I think. I questioned the motives of the current football club. They were being turfed off Stormy Corner, and they'd broken terms and conditions of their agreement with Checker Properties, and as such, they exercised their legal right to kick SCEM off the ground. So they eventually went over to Prescott Cables at that particular point. So we would have probably 2017 turning into roughly before Christmas, I think, and then so 2018. I attempted to bring SCEM back to Stormy Corner.
How?
Well, before Martin kicked, or Checker Properties, Martin Gilchrist kicked SCEM off the ground, he approached me and said, listen, they broke the terms and conditions. I don't really get on with the chairman. He doesn't pay me any respect. I hate speaking ill of the dead, because I have a lot of time and for Paul Griffiths, but they're his words. This is the honest side of things. So he said, listen, Frank, the only lifeline I will offer is if you can take over the running of SCEM United Football Club and form a largely new committee. I could have kept one or two people on there had I wanted to, but that was it was an option for the lifeline. When it appeared as though, well, it did appear, because they refused, they refused me approach.
Paul Griffiths
rejected,
did.
Yeah.
And the board.
The board of directors rejected my approach, and as such, I thought that at that point they were ground sharing at Prescott Cables. I think they were at the lower echelons of the league. They were facing relegation. There was no money there. Every penny that they had, in a similar position to what it is now, was paid into a ground share agreement, £500 a match, whatever it was. It might even be more at that stage. And I didn't feel as though Skelmersdale United Football Club was coming back to SCEM. So I know why I'm being asked the question. So what I did was, then I had an opportunity of keeping Stormy Corner, which was a fit-for-purpose Northern Premier League ground with a clubhouse that was making money. I had an opportunity of, one, I wanted to bring SCEM back to Stormy Corner. Like I said, they rejected me advances. So when I felt as though it got to its worst point, I thought, I'm going to start Skelmersdale AFC up here. And that's what I attempted to do. And would I have done the same? Would I do the same thing now as I did back then? I probably wouldn't. But in order, when you have glamorous plans like that, you have to gauge public interest. And I went a bit more balls deep in terms of social media, asked a lot of questions, answered a lot of questions. People, mainly a small group of people, took offence to what I was proposing, and the usual troll like stuff. So it put people off. It put people off actually entering into an agreement with me in the first place. So the intention was to take over Stormy Corner. I'd registered the club with the FA, and everything was set to go. He'd even had the Northwest Counties down to do a ground grading to tell me what needed to be done, because there were little things that needed tarting up a little bit. So that was what was going to happen. I was going to do that. But then, short period after, JMO offered a lifeline to Skelmersdale United Football Club, mainly John Mallinson, and said, "Listen, I'll bring it up to the standard required for you to come back." At that stage, I think Skem were bottom of the league. I decided then it was no longer in the best interest of the people in Skem to have two clubs. Bearing in mind they'd have only had one in town if it hadn't been for JMO providing a lifeline. So I then approached them and I said to them, "Listen, I want to take over the run of the football club. I want to put a new manager in. I want to jig the committee around a little bit. I want people to resign so I can bring people on board." So there was a consortium of people. I offered them, in the interim, £25,000 to pay for wages for players in order to get them out of the relegation zone, which was still a remote possibility at that stage, and I think it was around about either late December 2017 or early January 2018. And once again, they didn't want me to be involved. They wanted me money, but they didn't want me to be involved. And as I said to them at the time, you don't expect me to put my money into this football club and not have a say on how it's spent. So it didn't happen. But I didn't go back and continue forming Skelmersdale AFC, because I still believe now that there's only one space in this town for a non-league football club, and I think eventually, whether it's us or Skelmersdale Town, we'll find out soon enough.
That's as may be. A few questions then to follow on. At this point, you're not involved in football at all. Why did you feel compelled to make a new team for the town of Skelmersdale at this point? Surely it would have been easier to just stand back and watch it all unfold. I understand, and I'm sure many people understand, you're wanting to get back involved with Skelmersdale United and offering a financial solution and a takeover of the chairmanship. But to actually then go and form a second Skelmersdale named club when the initial proposal was rejected, you can understand why people would raise an eyebrow at that.
Yeah, I do, but I refer to what I said before. If you're in a position where you can help someone, you try your best to help. We weren't talking about disbanding Skelmersdale United Football Club here. We weren't talking about amalgamating with Clay Brown. We were talking about an ex-chairman who'd been a very successful chairman, and I'm talking about myself. I'm not blowing smoke up my backside, but what I'm saying to you is, at that period of time when I was chairman, it was a very, very successful period.
Just remind us of the years that you were chairman the first time.
2006 to 2011.
Okay.
So 5 years. I think we finished four times in the playoffs out of 5 seasons. We had really, really good sponsorship deals. Ground share agreement with Liverpool Ladies. I think at one stage we were generating income around about £80,000 a year before it'd be circa £60,000 to £80,000 with ground share and sponsorship deals, and of course money that we were making from the clubhouse when it was successful. So it was a successful period.
Yeah.
I left the club because I felt as though I'd taken the club as far as I could. I was always wary of the fact that we didn't have We didn't have the money to finance the renovations for the stadium. We had a set of modular changing rooms, and we had a modular clubhouse, and it was rotting. The floorboards were rotting all the time. They had to keep being replaced. And in fairness, Paul Griffiths used to do that. He was a builder, so he used to do that, and pretty much at cost price when he did.
Mm-hmm.
But we had to continually do that, and I think the landlords were not going to. They were not going to pay for the refurbishment of the ground, so we had to do it. But many ways, we put our eggs into all one basket, and we tried to be as ambitious and competitive as we possibly could be, which was reflected in the positions that we finished in the league. Playing FC United in the final at Gig Lane, and running Chester. I think we lost out on promotion by 1 goal. We were competing against the likes of FC Halifax, AFC Fylde, clubs like that. And as you've seen, they've all gone on to do bigger and better things.
Yes, they have. So just bringing that back to Skelmersdale AFC then. Yeah. So you wanted to put this plan in place after the current board of directors rejected your offer of a takeover at Skelmersdale United despite your credentials.
It wasn't a complete takeover.
No, not a takeover, but certainly an element of involvement then. We'll call it an involvement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you have to remember at the time, and this is not me, I was approached by Martin Gilchrist, who said to me, listen, if you can take control of that football club again, I will give you a lease
into Stormy Corner.
It made good sense. Skelmersdale United Football Club had a lifeline back then. They just didn't want to take it. And I can understand. We're all trying to do the best thing for the football club. And I don't know until, we won't know until a few years down the line whether I've made the best decisions, the good decisions, or the wrong decisions. We won't know. Only time will tell. Mistakes were made back then, but those mistakes that were made by other custodians, and they're not deliberate mistakes, they're honest mistakes.
Okay.
I don't think anybody at this level, particularly me and other people that I know at this level of football, and I talk about nice football clubs in well-run family football clubs in non-league football, and I think most people realise when you're honest, the only mistakes you make are honest ones. You don't deliberately do something to be belligerent. You just don't do that.
No, you don't. No, I understand where you're coming from. So the involvement is rejected. So Skelmersdale AFC is then a brainchild, and it's registered with the various factions of footballing involvement that you need at this level. Okay. Why did you feel compelled to have a second Skelmersdale team when, at this point, Skelmersdale were still in existence? They just weren't in the town.
They were struggling to make ends meet. They were struggling to pay the bills. Paul Griffiths, the chairman at the time, was paying for the ground share agreement. I believe most of the money was coming out of his pockets. I know personally now how draining that is financially and mentally and physically, the hours that you put into football. So at some stage you feel as though something's going to break, something's going to snap, and I felt as though it was going to snap at that stage, but I also wanted to make sure that we still had that stadium. And I did feel at the time, and I've not really sort of elaborated on it before, but I did have a feeling that that if the worst case scenario happened, we could rebrand the club and it would become Skelmersdale United Football Club once again. It was never a long-term aim to be Skelmersdale AFC against Skelmersdale United. It was to protect football and a legacy in Skem and a ground, because there was nowhere else for Skem to go at that stage. You have to remember, the JMO wasn't fit for purpose at that stage. So we couldn't have gone to the JMO and played in the Northern Premier League at the JMO. That just wasn't on the cards. So protecting the ground, keeping the ground within the town, I felt as though it was my obligation to do that.
Why? You weren't involved. I know you weren't involved, but is it based on?
I love Skem.
Okay.
I love the club.
Okay.
When I left the football club, I was made to feel as though I'd left it under a cloud. In terms of things were said by people now that still say the same things, and they've been proven time and time again to be codswallop. But once they're said, they're out there and mud sticks, and I can't unfortunately do anything about that. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that we still had a stadium. That makes sense, that doesn't it? Keeping a stadium that's fit for purpose in Skem. Keeping it, and then if the worst case scenario happens, I even did think at some stage they'd probably turn around and say, before it was too late, right, you know, we're with you, we're on board now. It wasn't rocket science. All they had to do was join forces with me, but as a custodian of that football club. And when I say that football club, Skelmersdale United Football Club belongs to the supporters. I am a custodian, but I'm a supporter as well. So I feel as though I've got a much bigger stake than ordinary folk, because I've invested time, effort and money into it. But in terms of protecting a legacy, I thought that was the only way possible of doing it, was keeping Stormy Corner, because otherwise, as we've seen now, it's been sold off and it's getting redeveloped right as we speak. It's such a pity. It's such a pity that people couldn't have got around the table and protected that. But this wasn't an amalgamation of two teams. It could have been in the end, but only to protect the legacy of Skem United Football Club.
Can you understand why they wouldn't want you to come in and be involved? Yes, you've had your background of extended success between 2006 and 2011, and you have the funds there readily available. But considering you've just rejected an offer of an involvement from this consortium, whereby they said we'd get rid of all the people on the board. You came into Skem in 2017 and 18 and said that you'd wanted to rejig people on the board as well. What's the difference between their consortium being rejected and your consortium being rejected?
I wasn't a rival. Plain and simple, I just wasn't a rival. I was a interested party in protecting Skelmersdale United Football Club. I didn't want to change the look, the feel, the history of it. I wanted to protect the legacy.
But you still wanted some people out on the board of directors.
In order to get the lease on Stormy Corner, yeah, that was the proposal.
So was that an arrangement that you'd had with Mr. Gilchrist? Did he make it clear that he wanted some people off the board of directors, or did you know that there were people on the board of directors who may be a threat to your returning to Stormy Corner?
If Stormy Corner was still available now, and somebody else was the landlord, and they'd fallen out with me, if I'd been approached by someone that used to be involved with Skelmersdale United Football Club and had Skelmersdale in its best interests, I would have invited them back onto the board. I would have stepped down to protect the legacy of Skelmersdale United Football Club. This is totally different. These are rivals. There's no proof of progression, where the money's coming from to finance it. There's no absolute proof at all. They'll argue the toss and no doubt come back on this one. But listen, a lot of untruths are being told. So, and this takes a little bit of a turn here, because when I was in the process of forming Skelmersdale AFC, I was approached by Jay Howarth and Nick Matthews, who wanted to be involved with the new football club. Jay, relatively new to Claybrow, I think he not long formed the club. He was really, really interested in being part, and I think they wanted to probably take over as manager. And I've seen Nick Matthews has said on social media that they were approached to become joint managers. Well, it's not true at all, because I'm bearing in mind Nick Matthews Jay Howarth sat relatively in the similar positions to where you're sitting now, across from me, and they already knew that Tommy Lawson was lined up to be the new manager. I made no... Tommy was at some of the meetings. I made no bones about the fact that Tommy Lawson would be the new manager. On both occasions, it didn't matter whether it was moving back. And listen, to answer another question, by the way, why? Because I'd been not involved with the football club for several years. I was approached by two people from Skelmersdale United Football Club who were in situ at the time and said, listen, come back, save this football club.
That was between the years of 2011 and 2000.
No, this was in 2017.
So this was when you were out of chairmanship.
This was when I was out of chairmanship.
Okay.
So this is before they were kicked out of Stormy Corner.
Right.
So people already knew that the likelihood was they were going to get kicked out of Stormy Corner. That's the way I've read to believe it since, that time plays 58 years of age now.
Time erodes memory, doesn't it?
You forget a lot. A lot of it's documented, a lot of it isn't. But at that particular time, I was approached by two people from the football club. And people forget that. And I'm not going to throw them under the bus. It's up to them to, discuss with other people whether they wanted people to know their involvement with me at that particular time. There was a groundswell of opinion that wanted Frank Hughes to take over Skem because they didn't want it to stay out in Prescott. But this wasn't a hostile takeover. This was an attempt at keeping Skelmersdale United Football Club at Stormy Corner. Totally different. This is about bringing Skem back to the JMO under new ownership, under our rivals, without a clear plan. The pathway, we can understand the pathway. We can understand that they've got 160 teams collectively. We can understand that they've got over 300 junior teams in their West Lancashire Junior League. We understand that they've monopolised football. They're very astute businessmen in their field of football. Listen, praise to them. They're doing a really, really good job. But at the end of the day, Skelmersdale United Football Club is Skelmersdale United Football Club.
I want to move on to your tenure at Skelmersdale United Football Club. See, we've had two periods of chairmanship here, 2006 to 2011, and then 2003 to the present day. And I think the one thing that stands out for me right now, and it's most prevalent in your second tenure here, is the similarities between what you've experienced as a chairman and what you've experienced as somebody external to the club. So you have attempted to come into Skelmersdale United at its time of need. You were turned away. You've then made plans to form your own football club, and you've been vilified on social media for that.
Yeah.
This consortium has attempted to take over Skelmersdale United Football Club at its time of need, been rejected, formed a new club.
They were already doing that, by the way.
They were already doing that, but that doesn't... What they've done is they've formed a new club, again under the Skelmersdale name, and they're being hailed as some kind of heroes to the return of football to the town of Skelmersdale. Mm-hmm. From a personal perspective, how does that make you feel?
I wish them the best of luck. I genuinely do. Football's all about competition. How can you deprive a setup like that of being ambitious and trying to work the way through the leagues? I think they started as a Sunday league team, maybe. I think then turned to Saturdays, and now that they're making that sort of elevation from amateur football in the hope that they can play in the Northwest Counties. You have to applaud the ambition of anybody that puts that time and effort into it, albeit that they're getting paid for for the job, the field of experience that they're in, the football.
The three heads of the consortium are.
Yeah, and good on them. It's great. So, do I feel bad? Well, what people forget is that it's still Clay Brown. It's still Clay Brown. Now, if I go upstairs now, not that I'd fit in one of my wife's dresses, but if I put a dress on, wear high heels, throw a wig on and loads of makeup on, and call myself Shirley, people will still know me as Frank Hughes. I'm not being sarcastic, but in order to lose that tag, you probably have to go away, or you have to appeal to the people that really don't know a great deal about Skelmersdale United Football Club either. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to garner interest from the public in Skel and say, listen, you can watch regular football, probably cost-free at the moment, and you can see us move up the ladder, and you can be a part of all your kids are playing for us, and you're part of the bigger, you can play a big part in the future. I mean, it
sounds enticing.
On paper, it's amazing, isn't it? You know, if they've got 300 teams in the West Lancashire League, and they've got 160 teams in Skelmersdale or surrounding areas, I'm assuming that's a combined figure in the 300. 300 times 20, 30 kids, you know, 6, 7, 8,000. You know, we don't know how many people, but in essence, you know, your fan base, you could create your fan base from your kids, from the people that are playing in your side. It's on paper, it's absolutely amazing, but it's Clay Brown. And no disrespect to Clay Brown. Right now, it's Clay Brown playing at a lower level than Skelmersdale United Football Club. I wish them all. I have no issue with them at all. I'm just putting my points across, because what's happened is, first of all, that was a private email that shouldn't have been released. So you have to ask the questions why they've done it. It's obvious to me that it's been done to discredit me because I've not said yes. Fine. It's business. Do it. Have your best shot at me. It doesn't really bother me. It doesn't. I'm a simplist. I feel as though it's a lot more simple than it's made out to be, but because of it, because of the release of a private email, and because of the questions upon me integrity, it's swollen into something else. It's going back in time and backwards and forwards in time all the time, and a lot of what I'm being accused of, I wasn't the one that failed the FIFA bounce test. The carpet failed the FIFA bounce test. I wasn't involved when the ground failed the FIFA bounce test. I wasn't involved in the club when they appealed to the better nature of the people in power at the JMO to replace that carpet and expect them to do it out of their own funding. Now, I know, because I've said it before, if I walked into JMO next season, I've said it before, if I haven't got security of tenure, I can't apply for any of the funding streams, so I can't improve that facility. I'm back to square one again. I have to move out to move up. So I have to ground share somewhere else at significant cost. It's not right. Everything about it isn't right. It's not the right fit.
Do you anticipate this new consortium with their new venture having the same kind of difficulties in getting an improvement on the JMO? Speaking as a businessman, that you've had experience with Mallinson and JMO in the past.
I've spoken to those three parties, and according to them, they believe that, their words by the way, that the carrot dangler is the fact that they've got over 300 teams in the West Lancashire. They're not using that, by the way. They're not leveraging anything. If you really think about it, what they're saying is we're gonna. The original deal with Joe and Rafa was we join forces and we'll keep everything from under 11s in our control, and everything from under 12s upwards will be in the control of Skelmersdale United Football Club. So then there's a pathway from the under-12s right up to the first team. And that was basically how it was going to fund itself.
Mm-hmm.
Now that sounds... It sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
But the deal changed.
When Jay arrived.
When Jay arrived.
Okay.
And it could have been... It could have worked, but it needed to be worked on. I can't go into a meeting. I can't receive an email on a Tuesday morning and be expected to make a decision by the Friday end of business. That's not how business works. There's a little bit of cockiness attached to that. There's no doubt about it. And I'm not having a pop at them. Great on it. You've tried your best, but you fell short. That's fine. We go again. We're in competition. But I think we were always in competition. That's what a lot of people will forget, is that we were competitors.
But my original question was, do you envisage them having the same difficulties in having the JMO facilities improved that you yourself found quite difficult?
You're right. Yeah, I think... the other thing to look at is the term of the lease that JMO have with the council.
It's less than 20 years.
Less than 20 years, 15 possibly, a little bit more. I'm not too sure the exact figures. If the council don't renew that lease with JMO, who's to say they won't sell off the land to build on? I don't know, and I'm not suggesting they are, because listen, politics changes day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. Anything can happen, but there's no guarantee that anybody that's in situ. Listen, it might go down to tender. Then they might say at the end of them 15 years that if anybody wants to take over the facility now, you're going to have to tender for it. And as it stands right now, Clay Brow would be in the box seat, you would imagine, to take it over. But let's imagine that doesn't happen. And after the 15 years, we look at Clay Brown, I think Skelmersdale Town, whatever you want to call it, progressing and doing really well and getting into the non-league system. At the end of them 15 years, if the council don't renew the lease, where do they go then? Bearsco, Crosby. I'm just posing the obvious question that should be asked about that. There's no guarantees in this life. No guarantees that you're going to win your next game. There's no guarantees that you're going to walk across the road and survive it these days. There's no guarantees in this world. It's toxic. The entire world is toxic, and I'm going slightly off charter there. But if you look at the world as it is now, it's messy.
So there's no guarantee at this point that John Mallinson would facilitate any kind of changes to the quality of the pitch.
I believe he is going to.
Okay.
Purely by speaking to Steve Tomlinson, who reckons it'll definitely happen. Now he's like his I don't know, commander in chief, whatever. He's looking after his businesses. I mean, in fairness to John is getting on in years, lovely bloke, but he's not in the best of health. So I think his daughter plays a big part in it now. There's a lot of improvements being made at the JMO, by the way. But what I did is, as I said to anyone, when the olive branch was offered recently, before Christmas, I think it was, when they turned around and said, listen, we're inviting people past that have been, using the facility to come back. We've let a lot of people down. We want to turn the corner and make friends again. My first call was to Steve Tomlinson, and I said to him, listen, is there any chance that we'll be part of that olive branch? Just don't forget about us, we're still here. I've still left it in their court, even after I reminded Steve Tomlinson that I'm not going anywhere. Skelmersdale United Football Club are not amalgamating with anybody else. I've tried everything
with the JMO to facilitate this return as much as you can. And it would have been only without your stewardship that and this amalgamation between Clay Brow and Skelmersdale United that it could realistically still happen.
without me,
Yeah.
it could happen.
Yeah.
I'd like to think anybody that comes and takes on the mantle of running the football club would have more sense. Well, for the reasons that I've said, this is nothing. This isn't anything against Clay Brow or the consortium. This is purely about politics. We've entered into agreements and conversations with people that are going to help us get back to SCEM. If people expect me to walk away from that at this stage, well, they're in cloud cuckoo land. It's just not something in my nature to do. You imagine in the next 3, 4, 5 years, however long it takes, and I'm being conservative. I might be over conservative. I might not be doing the timeline justice, but to imagine that we will have a purpose-built community hub in Skelmersdale that's a non-for-profit organisation in Skelmersdale in a central position with a new regenerated town, something that is created by the people, for the people, not something that's made for profit. And that's nothing wrong with making profit. That's business. But in terms of where I want to see Skelmersdale United Football Club, I want to establish links with all the educational systems and I've started that already. And like I said, news about that will come probably the end of April. And I want to carry on building these relationships. I started 3 years ago, but if in truth I started doing my homework way back when my dad was chairman, back in the late 70s, I know how Skelmersdale ticks. I know what's worked. I know what hasn't worked. People have to remember that the success that Skelmersdale United created was out of its amateur days. They were amateurs at the time when they won the Amateur FA Cup at Wembley in 1971. They were an amateur team. In many ways, turning into a semi-professional team was a step too far for them at that particular stage. I think the bloke that was running it at the time, he had a bit of money, but he didn't have enough money. So when you're playing in the Northern Premier League, which was a direct feeder league then to the Football League, and eventually Wigan, who we used to play on a regular basis, they ended up taking the place of Southport in the Football League. That's how close we were to the Football League back in that. We were nowhere near it. Macclesfield and Scarborough, Wigan, teams like that were in the Northern Premier League at the time. There's no way we could compete with them. We were pretenders, real pretenders. We couldn't fulfil our obligations. So then, when the chairman's decided he wants his money back because he doesn't have a lot of money, he forecloses on the club and they have to sell the Blue Rooms off. And that's what they did. They sold the Blue Rooms off, and from that point onwards, there've been highs and there's been troughs. Probably been more troughs than highs. There's been limited success in those years. So I'd say from, I think, around about 1978. I don't know when the Blue Rooms were sold up, but I'm saying around about 1978. So you're looking at 22, nearly 60 years. Nearly 60 years. 60 years of fighting for an existence. And that's what it's very much been like. There's been there's never been an overall plan. It's just been about existing and trying to be ambitious and competitive. It's a difficult game to be involved in, and anybody that thinks they can walk into a football club and wave a magic wand, I keep talking about magic wands. There's no magic wand solution to anything, and sometimes if something looks too good to be true, then, it's too good.
Then moving into your first kind of arrival for your second tenureship in 2023.
Yeah.
So you came and you were officially announced on Company's House as being in chairmanship in June 2023.
Yeah.
Now, in and around the months of that date, there were 6 members of the board that departed.
Yeah.
4 of which came pre June 20th and 2 post June 20th. Did you have any involvement in the departure of those board members?
No.
None at all?
No.
You didn't ask for them to leave? You didn't...
I was approached by Gordon Johnson around about the end of April beginning of May. Season had just ended. It was the same day that Richard Brodie announced he was going to Bearsco. So sat in the lounge there, and Gordon sat opposite me there, and he said, "Listen, as it stands right now, I've lost half of my board. I need your help."
And these were active, willing resignations by the board members. You didn't manoeuvre there.
I can't understand it, because I've seen Kevin Panther say somewhere, and I'm just trying to look at my notes. He said something about and other people have said that they're being forced out. So in reference to what Kevin Panther keeps repeating, I'm totally unaware of how or why any of the other members of the old committee were forced out of the club. I wasn't at the club then, nor were 4 people out of the current 5 involved as a on the board of directors. If he wants to explain on Facebook, because he's good at explaining things on Facebook, if he wants to explain what he's talking about, I'm more than happy to listen to it. I didn't force anybody out. I don't know when. I don't think Gordon would have forced. Gordon be the first one to say that he needs help, support. We all need help and support. You don't want to get rid of people that are giving you all that help and support, because it's a ball and chain around your neck. Running a football club as chairman, you can't treat it lightly. It's almost a full-time job in many ways.
Okay. The last kind of major talking point I want to discuss is White Moss Park, because that still hangs around as a story as to the circumstances regarding the sale. So, White Moss Park was lost in 2012?
No, 2003.
Was it 2003? Oh,
sorry, early 2000s it was.
Early 2000s, right. Okay.
It wasn't lost as such, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay, right, okay. So, can you just, for the record, at this point, you're not the chairman. Are you involved in the football club at all in 2003? When White Moss Park was lost?
I was a director of the football club.
Okay.
Then I resigned because I was a bit too busy to put time into the football club. Okay. During that period between resigning and coming back on board again, they'd made an agreement with Checker Properties. They, at the particular time, they owed £50,000 to the bank.
Okay.
And in the best interest of the football club, they felt that they needed to find a way of getting out of that, and it was a conversation by pure luck more than design. Arthur Gore has spoken to some of the former chairman the chairman at the time, has spoken to someone that he knows returning from his shop on Sunday morning, getting his Sunday papers, and it was suggested that they go down the route of speaking to somebody in particular, and that happened to be Checker Properties. So what they did at the time is Checker Properties approached all the shareholders, and many of them were asked to just give up their share in the football club. I honestly don't know if any of those shareholders, bearing in mind, I had shares, my dad had shares, and my uncle used to have shares in the football club. The 2 uncles used to have shares in the football club. I didn't have significant shares, nor did any of my family, so I didn't gain anything from it. But the way it was sold was, listen, you're helping to save scam. If they don't move, if they don't move from White Moss Park, if they don't sell it and buy somewhere else, then the bank will foreclose on them eventually, and they'll go out of business. So, but I don't know of anybody. And there might have been, because there were significant shareholders, but I don't know of anybody. I've been told, but I've not, for a fact, it's been proven, but there might have been 1 or 2 significant shareholders that were paid off a little bit of money. But in terms of the shareholders were paid off, no money came back. If any shareholders got paid off, I'm saying I don't know any of them. There might have been a couple, but other than that, nobody took anything from it. the exchange was White Moss Park for a new ground fit for purpose at Stormy Corner. And we can argue all day long about whether we got what we wanted, whether we should have employed a solicitor at the time to sit in all the meetings, should we have kept minutes and things like that. We can argue that all day long. We didn't do it. But I wasn't there then. When I rejoined, I said to Arthur Gore, I might be able to get hold of the £50,000. He said, it's too late. We've done the deal. We've signed a deal with Checker Properties. From that point onwards, I'm part of the fight. I'm part of the argument. Why have you done this? Why have you done that? I'm asking questions. But you know what? When you look at the overall picture, from people, volunteers, good, honest, hard-working volunteers, they were just trying to protect the legacy of the football club the best way they knew how to. Did they make mistakes? We all make mistakes. We try to learn from the mistakes. Would I do some of the things that I did back then? Would I say some of the things that I said back then? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'd like to think I wouldn't. I wouldn't say it now because I've matured. I'm 58 years of age now. I've learned a trick or two. I've been involved in football long enough to know that how much it means to everybody. It can't be treated like a. It can't be treated like a cast off. You can't. You've got to be all in. You can't have a toe in a football club. You've got to be all in, and I'm all in. And anybody that really, really knows me, would say the same thing. So, like I said, there are a lot of sort of social media trolls there that come up with their own narratives. If that's all you've got in your life, is that all you can do, then carry on doing it by all means. And no doubt, I didn't want to keep replying in a sort of volley, a tennis sort of match volley situation on social media. So I felt as though the best way, and I think we all agreed in the end, the best way was to discuss it in
spoken word.
In spoken word.
Okay.
And I'm hoping. But I know, I'm not daft. I know that, we're probably going to get worse publicity from this anyway. We're probably going to get, the naysayers will go up a notch or two. But, there's a few of them people out there that turn around and say, he's only keeping hold of Skem Football Club to line his own pockets. Couldn't be further from the truth, could it?
You're not making a profit on this.
Nobody makes a profit out of football anyway. So
non-league.
Well, no, unless you're an actual, you're running a coaching system like these are. They're making money out of. That's their livelihood. This is not my livelihood. I don't make any money out of Skelmersdale United Football Club. You don't. Everybody that's involved, all the directors, don't make a penny. We have people like Danny, who's been at the club for years, moved over to Ireland and is still our general secretary of the football club, working remotely in Galway to give us a service that he's been doing for years, that he did over here, and he's just doing as much, just good, solid volunteers that have a general interest in seeing the club get back to where we all feel it should be. And listen, I know what people are saying. Some of the people that... Kevin is an example. Kevin, back in the day, didn't want me to get my hands back on Skelmersdale United Football Club.
Why?
I don't know. He fell out with me. He formulated an opinion about me. And you know what? I might have been a tit on a few occasions. I might have fell below the standard I set myself and said some things at times. I think it was I've always been quite vocal, more in the written sense, but I'm quite happy to discuss things with people verbally. But back in the day, could I have toned it down a little bit? Could I have moderated it? I mean, the one thing I've always done is, even with the pen, which is supposed to be mightier than the sword, I've been as nice as I can with everyone. I don't slag anybody off. I'm not slagging anybody off now. I still say, but going back to Kevin Panther Kevin Panther wouldn't entertain me. Now, why does he think it's such a good idea that Clay Bright takes over Scam? Because he's seen something on paper that looks attractive. Is that all you look at? If you're not prepared to look at the bigger picture, and like I said, probably the biggest reason of them all is because of the collaborations that we have at the moment. And it doesn't really, we could come back to JMO temporarily, but it wouldn't be a permanent fix for Scam. It wouldn't be. It's not for Clay Brown now. Are Clay Brown going to get control of are they hoping just that purely from the under-12s upwards is going to generate enough income to keep Skelmersdale United Football Club, or as it is now, it's going to be Skelmersdale Town, to keep them competitive? Does he really think that's going to that's enough money there, or is he working it off his fan base? I'm thinking the fan base is going to be like 300, 400, 500 people, and they might all go in there, and that's fine. Everybody has a choice in this town. The choice is they either support Skelmersdale United Football Club or they support this new
venture.
This new club, the rebranded club, and I'm pretty sure it will work in some shape or form. I hope it does, because I really genuinely feel this. If we get to the desired finish line where we're expecting to go, then I'm so looking forward to the derby. And that's when on the particular day when we go head to head, nose to nose, toe to toe, I will hate them on that particular day because I'll want to beat them, as they will, and as is their right. But at the end of the game, I'll shake hands. Doesn't matter who won or lost. I will shake hands and I'll say the best man won or drew. They have a passion. We have a passion. Why does their passion trump ours? Because they've written something down.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Me? I was asked a question, and I think I've answered it before, probably many times before, but I was asked a couple of questions. Why do you bother? And what do you do it for? Two slightly different questions, but in a similar sort of line. When Wally Bennett passed away, I looked at Skelmersdale United Football Club more as a legacy than a project, because he played as centre forward in the 67 final and centre half in the winning final in 1971. In terms of stature, you couldn't get a bigger icon, hero for Skelmersdale United Football Club. Richie Wade, who's recently passed away. These are all big characters that have played a huge part in the legacy of Skelmersdale United Football Club. Ultimately, I won't be a part of that legacy. I just want to protect it while I can and see where it goes from there.
Thank you very much for your time, Frank.
You're welcome.